Good morning. We've come out quite early this morning because it's going to be another warm day. We're into another heat wave here in the UK and it's getting really difficult for Molly now. So it's about 7 o'clock, as you can hear. The crows are all waking up above my head. The countryside is absolutely still. There's not many people about. It's already quite warm, but it's still quite pleasant. Like I said, there's not a breath of wind. We're keeping underneath the trees and we're on a path now and it's dense, everything. We've had a bit of rain in the last few days overnight and it seems to have perked everything up. The nettles at the side of me, stinging nettles, there's just masses of them. And apparently not everyone has stinging nettles. So anybody who comes to the UK from places where they don't have stinging nettles, mind you don't brush against them because they are horrible things and will hurt like bugger. And we've not really got anything to talk about today. Sometimes it's just nice to come out and just say what comes into your head and not actually follow any threads, because I usually come out and just start talking, but then I get into a subject and I start thinking about it and just talking on a specific subject. But today, no, today we're just going to have a walk and a talk and a chat, if that's all right by you lot. Because sometimes it's nice to just talk and get things out of your head. Talk about the little world around you, the countryside around you, the people in your life, the dogs in your life, the pressures in your life, the nice things that are happening in your life. It's nice to just talk about those, and it's also nice to talk about those first thing in the morning because it sets the tone for the day, doesn't it? Now, we had an eclipse a couple of days ago. It happened at about 7 o'clock in the evening and we were on a path adjacent to a field where we watched it from. And it was quite funny really, because we came up and you couldn't find a parking space. The place was absolutely heaving, but everyone was heading up to Rivington Pike, the local hill. So we stayed down here because we're not daft. And you can see the sun just as easily from here as you can from on top of a hill. So we stayed down here and it was funny because there were all these cars but nobody about, and the whole experience was all a bit meh really. I mean, it went quite dark, but it only, in this area where we are in the UK, it was only about 90% coverage, or just over 90% coverage. And that last 10% of the sun that it didn't cover made all the difference. So yes, it went dark, and it went a weird kind of dark, like a storm dark, like when you get these, you got it kind of the yellow early morning sun, but covered with cloud. It was all a bit weird really. I brought my Jublo snow blindness glasses, and these are, I'll put a picture up if I can find one somewhere. I've had these for years because I used to do a lot of winter climbing and hiking in the snow in winter, and ice climbing and things like that, and you needed them then. And they're quite weird, they're very steampunk. See a lot of steampunky models wearing them, but they're much better in, you can't look at the sun with normal sunglasses on, you will damage your eyes, but these are made, they do something magical with UV rays, but they're very weird to look through because they increase the shadow, so the shadow seems to spread more. If you look at a tree and some of it's in shadow, well, not only does it intensify that bit of shadow, but the shadow seems to seems to spread out more across the tree. And then the lighter areas, they are, again, they're like a blade of grass. If a blade of grass is in shadow down one side, it is really dark shadow and then this weird kind of light. You can really tell the difference with them. You can't drive in them, even though they're just sunglasses. When you put them on, they're almost like welding glasses, they're so dark. But it meant that I could kind of, I didn't look directly at the sun, but I could kind of look obliquely. And it was great because I could see everything that was happening, but it was still a bit meh. But one thing, as it went darker, and this has happened, I've noticed this before, because we had a total eclipse, I think it was 1999, and that was great. Everything went really dark and it went very quiet, and it did the same. It went very quiet. There was no bird song at all. Nothing moved. It was really strange. But having said that, the deer were behaving really weirdly and peculiarly. I think they were confused, and I don't think it's just the premature darkness that their little minds have got programmed to a certain time of the year, because I feel that animals are a lot more attuned with the seasons and time of day. They get a lot more information out of nature than we could ever get. So they have all these things in their mind and that program daylight hours and weather. And as it went dark, the deer started running about and they were bashing out of the trees. We were in the middle of the field, there was no one else about. No cars were driving because everybody had parked up. So they weren't in any danger, but they were just coming crashing out of the trees and running across. And usually, well, one did pause and look at us, but usually they'll just amble about and stop and graze, and you can see the heads going down into the grass and then coming up out of the grass again. But they didn't, they were just running round in ones and twos, looking quite confused actually. You could hear them crashing about in the undergrowth, in the trees, and then whoosh, they'd come out and run across straight in front of you and just carry on running. And that's it. They're very curious. They will stop. They'll keep a distance, but then stop and look at you, and then move a little bit, and then stand and look at you, and stare directly at you for minutes. But they didn't. They had no interest. They were just crashing about and running about. So that had some impact, and that was quite interesting. So perhaps it wasn't as meh as I first said it was. I went car shopping yesterday, and that was kind of a bit of a bittersweet experience. I've never bought a new car. I can justify buying this car because I have never bought one before, and just once in my life I wanted to be able to buy a new car. But it wasn't the experience I thought. First of all, my car is a lovely little car. The thing is, it's not that old, it's only 7 years old. But, yeah, 7 years old. But after 7 years, this is when things start coming up at the MOT. We have an MOT, Ministry of Transport test, every year in this country for the people who don't live in the UK. Or countries across Europe that do have MOTs, and it's a yearly test, and everybody hates it because they test everything on your car. Well, all the things that affect the safety, the brakes, the tyres, all sorts of different things that affect the lights, everything, all sorts that might affect the safety. So although we all hate having our cars MOT'd, we all realise that it's a good thing. I mean, it's mad. Countries that don't have an MOT or some kind of yearly test or bi-yearly test, I think it's really it's risking things really, isn't it? Anyway, it's getting that time in its life now that things are going to start going wrong, things are going to start costing me money, and when you buy a new car you don't need an MOT for 3 years, and in 3 years I'll be 75, and whether I'll still be driving or not is another thing, because when you get to 73 in this country they start clamping down and trying to look for excuses to drive you off the road, and I have to have a test next year, so if I fail that test I will lose my licence, so I may only have this car for a year, spend a fortune on it and then lose it all in depreciation, but at least I will have had the experience. And it's, people say, yeah, but you always preach about living a frugal life. Well, I do, and I have, and I've lived a frugal life all my life. I've never had any money, and I've suddenly come into this bit of money, and I wasn't spending. I had no intentions of spending. I couldn't even think about spending. I couldn't justify the spending on anything. But my daughter set up this campaign of pressure to pressure me into buying a new car, and in the end she won, like daughters usually do. So I went to buy this new car. I'll look at it, and I'll put a picture of the one I'm getting up there, and I took it with drive, and it's great, and it's an automatic. I've never owned an automatic. The last time I drove an automatic was about 25 years ago. I love manual cars, but then again, it's something I've never owned, so I thought, let's have a go. And it's got all the whistles and bells, all the, like, this lane thing where it keeps you in your lane, and it brakes for the car in front. It's got keyless opening, and it's got everything. It's got all the buttons and bells that you can think of. I will never use them. I think this was just an indulgence and nothing else, because I drove it and it was like, yeah, it's very nice, but it was not much, apart from not having to change gear. It was very similar to my own car, because my own car drives like a dream. And it's the same size. It's probably slightly bigger than my car, but only slightly. So, but I was committed to buying it, so I went through the process, and you have this horrible haggling process with a dealer. They won't give you much for you. I didn't get much for my old car. They won't give me much. You're haggling for this, haggling for that. And I kind of, they were coming up with all sorts of, well, for £200 you can have this, and then they were stupid things that I wasn't, you know. They were saying, like, £200 you can have, like, 4 new tyres in the first 12 months or 2 years. I've only ever had 2 new tyres on this thing I've got now, because they do so little mileage. And one of those was because it blew out on the motorway. So anyway, I finally did the signing process, and it's going to be a long time. They're a very, very popular car. It's a Toyota Aygo Cross XL, which is next to the top level. There's a GR model above this, but the GR model has got nothing more than this, apart from you can put stiffer suspension on it if you want to play racing drivers, and it's got a black bonnet, which I didn't want, or a black hood, as some people call it. Anyway, I went through the process and I did it, and I've put the deposit down, and now I'm getting buyer's remorse. And the only reason I'm getting buyer's remorse is I'm looking at my little car and thinking, oh no, I love it. And even my next door neighbour was saying, oh gosh, I'm going to miss your little car. And that's silly, isn't it? Because we get attached to inanimate objects, don't we? How silly is that? And a real emotional attachment, and that's how I see it. I see it almost like a child, as though I feel as though I'm betraying it for some reason, and all I'm doing is buying a new car. Some people, my brother buys a new car every year. He buys a new one for him and a new one for his wife every year. I've never had one in my life. My cars, I usually buy them second hand and then just run them into the ground. This will be the first one that I've actually passed on, and because it's in such good condition, and because it's so low mileage, it's only got 34,000 miles on in 7 years. I know it's so little mileage that somebody's going to get a really good deal. So hopefully someone will look after it. I keep calling her. I'm trying to stop doing that. You shouldn't give it an identity. But hopefully someone will look after it. And I think I will probably be doing more mileage. I mean, when, you know, I keep saying I can't get away from the fact that Molly is 16 and very old. And even if she's still around for a bit longer, she does quite like going out in the car or going to new places. So yeah, as soon as we get this, I'm going to start doing longer journeys. We're going to start going out more, filming from other parts of the UK, so we can show you what other parts of the UK looks like, other villages, other trees, other forests, other hills, and that kind of thing. So that's it, I've done it. I bought a new car. And like I say, people were saying, oh, you always, all you live with, you had your most popular video was one about live better without spending. And it's true, and I haven't. But this is just one of them things. It doesn't feel like spending. I've no joy in it. I thought there would be. I thought there'd be this excitement, but it's not. All I can think about is the amount of money I've spent, which I don't need. I mean, this money's just sitting in my bank account and I don't need it. It'll just go to my kids. But I keep thinking, that's a lot of money. You shouldn't be spending all that money, Nigel. Anyway, it's done now. I'm just going to keep my head down until it comes, and then I'll show you it when it comes, because it's a very cute, give it a little run through what it's got and what it does. And it's got fantastic mileage. You know, I can get 60 or 70 miles to the gallon out of it, which will make it more economical to run, even though the insurance is going to be a damn sight more. For some reason, the insurance is very high on them, so that's just a bullet I'm going to have to bite when it comes through. But it won't be coming through for a while yet. The delivery, the very popular kind of delivery, is ages. It could be up to like 10 weeks or 11 weeks. But so it's going to be, we're going to be going into winter by the time I get it. But that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. That's absolutely fine. As long as I just don't let it sit outside the house and not use it, because that would be a waste, wouldn't it? Having said I spend no money, I have just bought a new pair of shoes. Now the shoes I'm using absolutely falling apart. They've just come away at the stitching. They're embarrassing. When I walk towards people and we're out, I'm kind of conscious of people looking at my feet and thinking, what the heck's he got on his feet? He's literally all like gaping open like a shark's mouth. So I bought some new shoes, so hopefully they'll be nice and waterproof and comfortable for our walks out here, because it is beautiful out here today. And this is one of the reasons, mornings like this are the reason I love the countryside. Looking back down the path, you can see the sun coming through the trees up there and just playing on the path. And then at the side of us, it's just thick trees, and there's trees falling over, and they haven't been moved because we've got all these rewilding projects. And I've got mixed feelings about these rewilding projects, because I feel, and I worked in the forestry, so I think I know a little bit about this kind of thing, that when you leave things dead and dying and going dry in the undergrowth, it doesn't help stop wildfires. Wildfires will proliferate in areas where there's so much tinder on the floor. And that's what we've got up here. And luckily this year we've had no wildfires. Usually this time of year, I can look from my house and see the smoke rising up from the moors to the west of us. But this year we've had nothing. We've been very lucky, and considering it has been so dry, considering it still is so dry, and considering that everywhere else in the country, and it seems everywhere else in the world, is burning up, we've been quite lucky. The air's been clean and clear and smelling nice, smelling of nature rather than smelling of combustion. So we just wanted a little chat today. Life has run away with me a little bit this week, so I've not really had time to think about the channel. I've answered as many comments or replied to as many comments as I can. But it's been one of those weeks where it's just been really, really busy. In fact, this Friday today, and I didn't realise, I thought it was Thursday, and then when I got up this morning I thought, hang on, it was bin day yesterday, and bin day is on a Thursday. So I had a look, and yes, it was Friday. So that means that we'll be recording for our members our Friday at Molly Towers this afternoon. If you do like our videos, please consider subscribing. Our subscriber numbers are falling. Our watch time's falling as well. I think we've fallen out with the algorithm. I don't think there's any other reason for it. This may be a bit of a random video, but mostly I think they're pretty much all the same kind of quality, which is either good or bad, I don't know. I'll leave that up to other people to judge. But we're going to carry on now because it is absolutely beautiful. Get out if you can, wherever you are. Get out, not just because the countryside is beautiful, but because the countryside is so good for your health, for your mental well-being. There's no bad, is there? There's no downside. I can hear deer. There's a fenced off area here of a few, probably a couple of 100 acres. And this is where the deer are. I can hear them crashing about in there. They'll be leaving soon and wandering about all over the roadways like they do around here. Yes, but it is so good for your mental well-being, for your health. There's no downsides. You get exercise, you get the blood running. Let your mind wander and your thoughts wander. And that's good because that is a mental workout, I think, like any other, like doing maths, like reading, like doing anything, any hobby that requires thought. It's a mental workout because you're letting your mind wander, your mind goes to different places, you start thinking about things, and it's a great workout. So it's all in all, it's 100% great for you because it does. The more attuned you are with life, not just nature, but the more attuned you are with life in general, the more you get out of it. If you go through life not really appreciating anything, not really noticing anything, I think you're missing out so much. There's so much of life that you aren't appreciating. And we're only here once, and I keep saying this, I say this over and over again. We are only here once. We don't get another go. When at the end of life, we can't say, well, that wasn't so good. Can I have another go at it? Because the answer will always be no. So you have to make the most of this one chance you've got before we blink out. And I feel like I have I've been in nature all my life. I've worked in it. I've had my recreation in it. And so at the end now, I think, well, that's something I've tried to get as much out of as I can. Obviously, there's always more. But I think I've got quite a lot out of that. So I can tick that box. It's been great. It's enhanced my life. My life has been better. My life has been more fulfilled because I've just been out in nature more. It's made me a more peaceful person. If I hadn't started my life at a very young age, very early age, walking and climbing and working in the countryside and just appreciating the countryside and falling in love with the countryside, I don't think I would be the person I am now. Perhaps I would be more hung up. Perhaps I would be more obsessed with material things. Perhaps I would have turned out a completely different person. So just remember that your environment, the path you choose in life, so much of us is in our DNA. So much of us is just who we are and what we are. But also, so much of us is influenced by the lives we lead, by the hobbies we choose, by the pastimes we choose, by the jobs we choose, by the areas we choose to get our recreation in. So much of our personality. How many serial killers are there in the Ramblers Association? I bet there's not many, because they're all chilled. Well, not necessarily the Ramblers Association, because I've had umpteen run-ins with the Ramblers Association. They aren't chilled at all. It's like the Fourth Reich going on manoeuvres in the countryside. But normal people, people like me, you tend to appreciate the countryside so much that you become that person that couldn't harm anything. And I think that's because you just become so attuned to it. Not saying that anybody who chooses any other lifestyle won't be as chilled as perhaps I am. But I think it's moulded the person I've turned into, and I'm quite happy with that. I'm quite happy with me as I am. I've got lots and lots of criticisms of the me that I am. But on the whole, I'm quite happy with it. I'm quite happy with how I've turned out. As you come to later in life, these things matter because you're not looking forward really, are you? You tend to look back a little bit. You tend to reflect on things that have happened in your life. And I'm quite happy. In fact, I'm very happy. Molly's very happy. She's just been playing with a big young golden retriever at the bottom of the hill. And we're chilled, and we're gonna head back. We're gonna go in a loop now and head back to the car. Because although it's beautiful and I want to stay out here all day, it's getting too warm for Molly. I can hear her behind me, panting away. And it's time she was in the cool. So have a good day. We shall see you on the flip. Peace and love.